How do you recover from the worst day of your life? A couple weeks ago, I shared about April 9th of 2014, which is inarguably the worst day of your life. If you want to, go ahead and take a look at that episode. It'll be right here. But how do you get through something like that? Just let me give you a quick recap. I got a call on that afternoon from CPS that my children had been taken into their custody and my wife was in jail. Fast forward a couple hours, my mom and my sister had picked up my kids. My wife was spending the night in jail, and I was sitting at home. Fortunately, my brother came over, and he just kind of spent time with me, made sure I didn't do anything stupid, because as you can imagine, my head was not in a good spot. I had no idea what was coming next. I had never been through anything remotely close to this. Yeah, I had dealt with some crap. Yeah, I had been through some difficult circumstances. For the most part, dealing with other people. This was really the first circumstance like that was directly involving me. So I had no idea what to do next. My brother hung out with me until, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I tried to get some sleep. I didn't really sleep much. I had no details of what was coming next. I had no idea. I didn't even know what my wife was charged with as far as from the police. And got up the next morning, did the only thing that I knew to do, and that was to go into the office. I made a few phone calls. I called my mom to make sure that the kids were okay. Just went into the office because, as one of my chiropractic mentor likes to say, he says, when you walk into the office, you put off whatever's going on out there and you put on that doctor rule. Hi, Babs. Hi, Babs. She has to make her appearance. Anyway, I showed up at the office the next day, and everyone, of course, there wants to know what's going on. And so I gave them the bare bones, the minimum, the skeleton information of what I had. And tried to keep it as discreet as possible, but I had to let them know that there was some pretty serious stuff. And I let my boss know a little bit more because he needed to be in the loop. And I found out that morning that my wife had a hearing before a judge, and I wanted to make sure and be there for that. I couldn't actually be there for the hearing, but I got to sit in a room and watch the video hearing. And so I was at the office for a couple hours, and then I took the rest of the morning off and went to the hearing, showed up for that. Again, just a very surreal moment. Watching my wife come out and onto the camera in an orange jumpsuit. Something I never thought I'd face. And a lot of people, we've all been in those circumstances. We've all imagined scenarios like this, or maybe we haven't imagined. Maybe you haven't thought that way. But we've all seen on TV, we've all seen in movies these circumstances that you go, I can't even imagine being in that. And then all of a sudden, it's right in front of you, staring you right in the face. I remember hearing the charges that were directed towards my wife for the first time, and I can't remember exactly what they were, the exact wordings and the codes and everything, but I remember one of them was reckless endangerment of a child. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. This is my wife. This is the mother of my children. And now she's being charged with recklessly endangering a child. And not just a child, but our child, my child, her child, my little girl who I've been through so much with. And if you want to know a little bit about her story, that's the episode that'll be listed right here. My daughter, who was born premature and who had been through so much already in her life, was all of a sudden, there's my wife being charged with recklessly endangering her life. And they released my wife on bail or on bond or whatever it was. I can't remember exactly. But she had court dates set up and she had all of these things. And here I am again, looking at all these things that I'm going to have to deal with that I've never had to deal with before, never even imagined having to deal with. And I waited around because they were letting her out, but it was going to be a little while. And I didn't really have much else to do, so I hung out there at the courthouse waiting for my wife to get released. And I can't remember exactly what I did, but I probably made a few phone calls. I probably tried to make some arrangements. Again, checked on the kids and saw all the things that were coming up. It was a Thursday. I believe it was a Thursday. So I waited, and then after, I guess it was probably about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, I got the word that she was getting out, that my wife was getting out of jail. And I figured out where I was supposed to meet her, where I was supposed to pick her up. A lot of people may question me even having anything to do with her after all of this. And looking back on it now, I mean, there's even part of me that questions that. Like, I should have, maybe I should have just let it all go and just let her go and let her do her thing. But I was still holding on to the dream that someday we might be able to be a family again, that someday we might be able to put all the pieces back together, that someday maybe she and I would get healed up and we'd be able to have our whole family back again. That American dream that I talked about in that episode. And so she gets out, and I didn't even know what to say. I didn't even know what to do. I think maybe I gave her a hug, and I said, "Come on, let's go." And I remember not really talking about much. I remember not really saying much to her in that time, but just talking through maybe what happened the day before. And I didn't get angry. I don't think I got angry. I think I was just living in this new level of reality that I really didn't know how to deal with. And so over the course of the next few days, there were talks about the legal ramifications. There were talks about jail time. There were talks about investigations. There were talks about what she had to do. You know, she was going to have to drug test. She was going to have to go through all these evaluations. I was going to have to be evaluated because, I mean, they were suspicious of me because it happened in my house. How did I know about this? How did I not know about this? And all of those things. But yeah, there were talks with lawyers, and I got assigned a lawyer, and she got assigned a public defender. And there were starting to be negotiations about what was going to happen. And I was making arrangements at the office because there was going to be some things that I would have to do that I was going to need some time off for. And I got called into the police station, and I had to give a statement as far as what I knew and what I understood to be going on. And I was a much different person back then. I was not, I tried to paint as bright a picture as I could while still trying to be honest. Because I didn't want my wife to go to jail. I didn't want to have this family completely severed forever. I wanted to try to save it if I possibly could. Honestly, I was being selfish. Honestly, I was just trying to do the best with what the circumstances and situations were that were right in front of me. And again, hindsight being 2020, I definitely could have made some better choices. I definitely could have said things differently, could have handled things better. But this was so outside of anything that I could possibly think or understand. And I sat down with my assigned attorney and talked with him about the options and what things were going on and how they were going to be handling my case separately from her case, because I didn't have criminal charges. She did have criminal charges, but CPS was still involved with both of us. And a lot of very uncomfortable conversations with a lot of different people. And I got over time, I got better and better at having those uncomfortable conversations. I got better and better about being able to say the things that I really needed to say. And we started to set up arrangements for me to be able to go and see my kids. So my mom at the time, where my kids were, she lived about 2 hours north. And we set up, there were a certain amount of visits, certain amount of time that I was allowed to go see the kids. But they always had to, like my mom always had to be around. And I think she had to fill out paperwork every single time I was around. My mom had been involved. She was what was called a guardian ad litem, which means that she would often, as just a layperson, not a lawyer or anything like that, but she would talk with kids who were going through the CPS system, and she would advocate on their behalf. And so she was already kind of in their system. Plus, she's a school teacher and all that stuff. So she's had experience with some of these things. And so she had to do some of this paperwork, and I would drive every weekend or maybe every other weekend up to go and spend the weekend with the kids. So yeah, my kids were handling it all like a 16-month-old, an almost 3-year-old, an almost 4-year-old could. They were just like, cool, we get to visit, we get to hang out with grandma, and daddy gets to come visit us on the weekend. And like they didn't know what was going on. In the meantime, there I am at home trying to deal with this whole situation, trying to process it through as best as I can with the person that perpetrated this incident. Trying to look at them through as best as I could, what I thought was through Jesus's eyes. And in the light of like thinking about trying to restore and rebuild this whole family, and walking through the legal process and walking through all the legal ramifications and visiting the courthouse and visiting the CPS office and going to all these places and all these buildings and meeting all these people that I never thought that I would ever have to meet or deal with. Like taking time off of work and having to talk to lawyers and being online and studying. I had to take a parenting class. I had to get a full psych evaluation, and my wife had to go through all that same stuff too. She had her appointments, I had my appointments, and some of our appointments were together, but there was like this whole balancing act between how do we handle since the cases, I didn't have a criminal case, but we both had CPS cases. Were they connected? Were they not connected? So like even the attorneys and other people were like, well, we're trying to walk through all this too, because we're going from the premise that like you're going to try to preserve your family. And so like even they didn't necessarily know they didn't have necessarily a lot of experience with handling it this way. One story I'd like to tell is about the first time that I saw my kids after the incident happened. That incident happened on a Wednesday. The first time I saw my wife was on a Thursday. I believe it was early in the next week that they set up a medical exam for my daughter to come down, and she had to talk to a doctor. She had to go have a full medical workup. She had to sit down with a counselor and talk to all the people to try to figure out, what was going on and how long, all that different stuff. So that was the first time I saw my mom. That was the first time I saw my sister. That was the first time I saw my kids again after all that. And I just was like, I tried to be as normal as I could, considering the circumstances, considering the situation, considering that, like, I know people are looking at me and suspicious of me. Like, how could I let something like this go on? And so it wasn't easy. And I just tried to walk through that as best as I could. But when I saw my daughter and she came up to me and she sat on my lap and she was just like, "Hi, Daddy," and he just gives me a hug. And I looked down and it rocked my world, because here was this woman that was my wife, and she was the mother of my children, and here's my 2-year-old daughter with visible marks of where her mom had hurt her. And if you've never had to see that or experience that as a father, I pray you never do, because there was a level of anger that built up within me that I'm surprised at how I didn't commit an act of violence towards my wife. Trust me, there was a part of me that wanted to, and there were other times in the future that I wanted to as well. But I was still operating under the idea that regardless of what happened, that no one is beyond hope, that God can work miracles, that God can heal even situations like this, and that our God is big, and if anyone could fix this situation, it was Him. And I prayed like never before, and I got counsel, and I talked to a lot of people, and like I got some conflicting, counsel, but most of the people were like, yeah, Andrew, God can heal her. God can bring her to a place of repentance, and God can restore your family. It's going to be a long, hard road. And they're like, I don't know if I would have the patience. I don't know if I would have the ability to get through that, but we're here for you. We'll stand beside you as best as we can. We don't know how to handle it. We don't know what to do, but we're here for you. And I didn't know how to handle it either. And there's probably some of you sitting out there, statistically speaking, there's at least one or two of you, or a few of you, that have been through a circumstance like this. Maybe it's very similar. Maybe it's completely different. Maybe you were abandoned. Maybe you're the child in this situation. Maybe you're the parent, the grandparent. Maybe you're my sister or my grandma in this story, or my mom in this story. Maybe you're me. Maybe you're her. I don't know what position you're in. Maybe your situation is completely different, but it's a circumstance and a situation that you have never been with. You have never been down that road, and you have no idea how to deal with it. You don't even know. You've seen it on movies, but you could never imagine it happening to you. But it's happening to you, or it has happened to you, or maybe it will happen to you. That's how I felt too. I was like, yeah, I've seen this stuff on Law and Order or whatever show, but it's never going to happen to me. So here I was, right in the middle of it, and and I didn't know this principle. But in recovery, they talk about the idea of do the next right thing, which means you're not calculating what you have to do tomorrow or next week or 6 months from now. You're not looking at all of that stuff. You're looking at the decision that you're facing in the moment, right? You're doing that right thing. And most of us, hopefully, most of us have gotten to a point, maybe you're going to learn this. But if you can learn that, if you either have learned this lesson or you can learn this lesson, I hope you learn this lesson. Do the next right thing. Face the decision that's right in front of you, because any one of us are capable of making one right decision in the moment. When that thing is staring us right in the face, and we're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where this is going to lead. I don't know what's going to happen with all of this down the road. Don't worry about all that. Make the decision right there in that moment. And that's ultimately what I wasn't very good at. I kept thinking about what was going to happen next week. And I kept thinking about what was going to happen in a month. And I kept thinking about what this was going to look like in 6 months or a year, because people were telling me this could take years to resolve. And I got lost, and I got caught up in all of that. So my decisions in the moment were affected about me thinking about everything going down the road, and I was getting stuck. I was getting analysis by paralysis by analysis. And I couldn't make the right decision in the moment because all I could do was think about the future. And if I could have had that lesson imparted to me already, do the next right thing. Andrew, just face the decision that's right in front of you. Just make this one call right now. It would have saved me months, years of heartache and pain and misery and suffering. Not just amounts of time, but degrees, like orders of magnitude less difficult. If I could have been able to, in the moment, just think through the one decision that I had to make. So that's my encouragement to you. That's what I want to send you home with, is do the next right thing. Make the decision that needs to be made right then, and make sure that decision is the right one. If you make that decision in that moment and it's the right one, then the next one is going to be easier. And then the next one after that is going to be easier. And then one you have to make tomorrow is going to be different. And the one you have to make next week is going to be different. And and the one you're going to have to make 6 months down the road. And pretty soon you start to make these one right decisions after another, and things start to work themselves out. Yeah, they're not easy. And yeah, it's one decision at a time. And who knows how many of those decisions you're actually going to have to make. But don't worry about all the decisions. Just worry about the one decision. That's my encouragement to you. So, as I like to end these podcasts, if any of you are out there and you've been through down this road, or you're facing this road, or whatever it is your circumstances are, certain situation is, and this resonates with you at all, I want you to know, there is a way out, because I've made it out. I'm on the other side, and I made some bad calls, and thankfully I made a few more good ones than bad ones. Go back and listen to some of the rest of my story, and you'll know where the road I've been down. And if you feel like you want to reach out, I'd appreciate comments down below the video. I'd appreciate you liking it. I'd appreciate you commenting. I'd appreciate you sharing it. I'd appreciate you going to my social media and reaching out to me. Maybe I can help you. Like I said, I figured the way out, so maybe I can help you figure a way out too.
So if you like this content, please give it a rating, a review, and share it with your friends. Also, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me and what I'm all about and what I can maybe do for you, check out my website at thedangerousgentleman.org. That's thedangerousgentleman.org. Thank you for listening.